Hold on, give me 1 minute. I got to check something real quick.
Okay.
Be right back.
Alrighty. What would you do if I sang out of tune? Diddling buttholes and punching your mother, kicking your brother, then slapping your dad. That's what I do. That's who I am, because I am bad. I'm going to step on your sister's toes, staple your dog to the wall, hit your brother in the head with a baseball bat. And then break your father's jaws. I'll bury your grandpa alive and stab your uncle in the nuts. I'll hug your grandma insincerely and kick your auntie in the butt.
Okay, I got back about 30 seconds ago, but I wanted to keep it going. I had my earbud in the entire time. I was like, okay, this is great. I'll let it keep going.
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember what I was saying.
I said I had to. We'll get back to it. You said the Coyote Acme movie.
Yes.
Before we get to that, I had said I had to go check something. The thing I had to go check was my piss into the toilet. I had to pee really bad. So I'm back though. All right. I wanted to do that before you started talking about that because I didn't want to be thinking about my pee the whole time.
Oh, okay. I see. All right. But yeah, so Coyote versus Acme was another thing that Warner Brothers was going to just scrap, even though they made it completely for a tax write-off.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they've been doing that a lot.
Yeah.
People are starting to get really mad about it. And I think they realized it was getting to the point that people were going to stop working with Warner Brothers if they were just going to keep doing that.
That's good. Yeah.
So Warner Brothers is like, all right, instead of shelving it, we'll shop it around to another distributor and they can put it out. So like they're probably like shopping around to other streaming services, Netflix, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
To see if anybody wants to put it out, because according to test screenings, Coyote versus Acme is actually pretty decent.
Oh, okay.
And so it's a combination animation live action thing.
Yeah.
I think John Cena's in it. And it's about Wile E. Coyote suing Acme for all their defective products that never work for him.
Oh, okay.
So, and I want to see it, and I'm glad that they're shopping it around for a distributor. Because they were gonna straight up Batgirl it.
Yeah.
And
if they say they don't find a distributor by the end, I call bullcrap on that. Because if you really want to put it out there, and you'll make some money, but if you have to put it out there, Tubi, you can put anything on Tubi And they also have like Tubi like exclusives or Tubi originals. If it has to be, it can be a Tubi exclusive or Tubi original.
Yeah.
And they'll happily pay that because it's like, oh, like a well-known brand is actually wanting to have an exclusive with us. What?
Yeah. And the thing is, at this point, they'd probably make more money just putting it on Max.
Yeah, for real.
Than they would even get from maybe the tax write-off. Because the thing is, they're not getting as much back in those tax breaks as it costs to make the dang thing.
Yeah.
At least I don't think they are. I would certainly hope not. I really. Then again,
I know it's different, but yeah, if they did put it on Max, like maybe advertise it some on Max, like advertise it in other places, but at the very least advertise it on Max, because with a lot of their DC animated stuff the past year, like I haven't seen anything about that. And then, all of a sudden, like there's been this movie that's been out on Max for a month or whatever. Like just recently, I didn't even know about this thing, but Justice League, Crisis on Infinite Earths or something like that.
It's coming out. The first one of those is coming out this year.
Yeah, part 1, I think, already came out.
What? It's already there?
That's what I'm saying. That's the thing, is like we don't hear about this at all.
I saw the trailer. They're doing a whole trilogy of for the Crisis movies. And I knew that the first one was coming out this month. I didn't know it was already there.
Let me see. I thought it did, because I could have swore I saw someone I know review it.
You know what really grinds my gears?
Oh, it came out 3 days ago. Yeah.
Oh my God. You know what really grinds my gears? I just looked a few days ago. The Batman Long Halloween movies aren't up there anymore on Max.
Really?
Yeah, it's a good thing I already have them on Blu-ray. But but yeah, they're not on Max anymore. I looked at my Max list and they had just disappeared from in between the other DC Tomorrowverse movies that are up there.
Let me see if they license it anywhere else. It's not licensed. You have to rent it. What do you at least license it somewhere else? You'll make money on that.
Warner Brothers. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Like, seriously. Like, my understanding, based on everything I've heard, my understanding is that Zaslav has just been like gutting the company for parts since he like rose to power. And the thing is, like, apparently there's something in his contract where like the more cuts he makes, the bigger his paycheck is every year. So he's incentivized to gut the dang thing.
Yeah.
He's gonna find things that like there's nothing wrong with and say there's something wrong with it and get rid of it just so he can get more money.
Yeah.
That he's not going to be able to spend in his lifetime because CEOs make way too much money. I don't know if he's a CEO or some other position, but whatever. It's all the same thing. They're all executives.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't want to end today's podcast without talking about something really specific that I've been doing.
Okay.
So I've had another one of my bad project ideas that I'm committed to doing. This one's going to be easier than my reading the whole New 52 thing, though, which I still want to do. I'm just on a break. So I'm conducting a literary study of Shonen Jump manga, where I've chosen 20 titles. And I am reading them 5 chapters at a time in a rotation by age, basically. Reading whichever one is the oldest first and moving to whichever is the youngest. And I'm taking notes every 5 chapters on every series that I'm reading, just to keep track of like how they progressed over time and compare their progress with each like relative stage of each series. You know what I mean? Like what does Dragon Ball look like 5 chapters in as compared to One Piece or Yu Yu Hakusho?
Right, right.
That sort of thing. So the 20 titles I've chosen, let's see if I can remember them off the top of my head. All right. Are you ready, Brandon?
All right.
Because I don't know. Actually, let me test something real quick. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, never mind. I don't have to remember them off the top of my head. So I'm going to look at my notes. Manga study. There we go. So these are the 20 titles I've chosen. Dragon Ball, Saint Seiya, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Yu Yu Hakusho, One Piece, Hunter x Hunter, Naruto, Claymore, Bleach, Toriko, Tokyo Ghoul, One Punch Man, Food Wars Shokugeki no Soma, My Hero Academia, Black Clover, Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, Dr. Stone, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, and Kaiju number 8.
Thanks. This is quite the task.
Yes, 5 chapters at a time each in rotation, in the order that I just read their titles to you. So it's always Dragon Ball first and Kaiju number 8 last. But yeah, it's been interesting too, because like in my head I've also kind of subdivided them into different eras, like classic era and big three era, that sort of thing. And so my opinions on the classic era stuff form more quickly than on more recent stuff because I read them earlier in rotation. And I kind of have a personal ranking at this point, 10 chapters into the 4 that I consider to be the classics, which are Dragon Ball, Saint Seiya, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and Yu Yu Hakusho. Of the 4, my favorite classic series is Yu Yu Hakusho. I would rank JoJo's Bizarre Adventure at number 2. Which I know I've gone on record saying that I don't like the anime very much, but the manga has been great so far.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball is at number 3. Because early Dragon Ball is just delightful.
Yeah.
And that means Saint Seiya is at number 4 for the classic stuff. Because Saint Seiya, out of all of them, is the one that starts the roughest and probably needs to make the most progress if it's going to stay interesting. Because and you can kind of tell what kind of series you're reading based on page count per chapter. Like Dragon Ball averages 13 to 15 pages per chapter. It's a breezy, quick comedy adventure series. You know, you're not supposed to think too hard about it. You're just supposed to enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Saint Seiya, roughly 40 pages per chapter. Which is long even for a manga. It's long especially for a manga. But yeah, so like 40 pages per chapter. And I can't say it uses the space well. It's so character designs are flat and samey. So flat, in fact, that facial proportions appear odd. And blocky, very blocky costume design. Action, flatly choreographed, boringly plotted. Like dialogue, almost entirely expository. Sorry, that's the word. The dialogue is always either relevant information to lore or thing that is happening, or simple, you cannot defeat me, I am the most powerful, sort of thing. Like posturing, like that's like dialogue is all that, either exposition or posturing. And like combat boils down to like, I have the power to punch 1,000,000 times in a second. Hiya, and then like he punches 1,000,000 times in a second, but then the guy doesn't doesn't like get hit. He's like, what? And the bad guy is like, aha, you might have the power to punch 1,000,000 times in a second, but I
But
can
I have the
dodge.
power to dodge 1,000,000 times in a
I
second.
have the power to dodge 1,000,000 plus 1 times in a second. Now get ready for my really big punch. And then bad guy does really big punch, and it shatters the armor, which they call cloth. They call the armor cloth. That's like the fancy name for it.
Yeah.
So like it shatters the cloth. They're like, oh, my cloth, the source of my power. And Saint Seiya has work to do if it's gonna hold me.
Yeah.
Compared to its siblings, it's decently short, like 101 chapters or something, 111, I think, actually.
Are you
And it never,
gonna
as far as I know, it never got any sequels or spin-offs. So
Are you gonna do a do you have a cutoff if like something doesn't hold you at, like, let's say by chapter 50 you'll just cut it out? Or
I should probably work out whether or not that is the case.
I mean, it's 20 different titles, like,
yeah.
might be something to consider. Like, if all 20 are great, then that's great. But if there's like a few that are just slogs and you're at chapter 50 or something, like, that's just gonna, I mean, yes, you'll see the others in an even greater light, but it'll also just drag you to where, like, once you're done reading that good one, you're like, oh, now I'm on this one. Or let's say you're not even on that one. You're like 2 books, like you're on a, like, 2 mangas away from reading that one. You're like, oh, I'm so glad I'm reading this. But in 2 mangas, I'm going to have to be reading that.
Yeah. Well, so I do feel that a little bit with Saint Seiya, but because like every time I finish my round of Dragon Ball, I'm like, oh, I have to read Saint Seiya before I get to JoJo. But yeah, it is a little bit like that. But comparing it to the rest of the series, like I said, Saint Seiya, as far as I know, never got any actual spin-offs or sequels, which means 111 chapters, it's done. I'm down to 19 total titles.
Yeah.
Which, yes, 111 sounds like a lot, but still, it lasted that long for a reason. It has to get better. That's my current perspective on it. And if it doesn't, because the thing is, I committed to it, telling myself, good or bad, finish them all.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to learn from them, and I want to learn from mistakes as well as what works.
Yeah, that's true.
So getting all the way through Saint Seiya, assuming it stays this way for its full 111 chapter run, which, good God, I hope it doesn't. But if it, because the thing, it's doing the worst thing it can do, which is be boring. Like, if it was bad, it would be easier to get through if it was bad. Yeah. But it's not even really bad. It's just boring.
Yeah. Which is the worst kind of bad.
Exactly. Because it's, like I said, flatly choreographed action, flatly characterized characters, flatly designed characters and costumes, blocky costumes. Like, really, it's just, I can't say unappealing, because it's got a charm, visually speaking. But you look at Saint Seiya, you compare it to early Dragon Ball, it's like early Dragon Ball looks bouncy and cartoony and fun. Early JoJo looks really specific and stylized to something like just really like I said, specific. You know what I mean? Like, it's going for a vibe. Even early Yu Yu Hakusho is like super distinctly a young Yoshihiro Togashi's work. It flip-flops between humor and sincerity without ever feeling like it's breaking its tone. Like, Yu Yu Hakusho is just fantastic. But yeah, and then you look at Saint Seiya and you're like, this is generic 80s manga.
Yeah.
Like Saint Seiya is just, it's visually uninteresting. It's narratively uninteresting so far, 10 chapters in. That's an average of about 400 total pages already.
Yeah, and not trying to bash it. This is the first time I've ever really heard of the series, but like it sounds like something of the time. What I mean by that is like more willing to just let a series go on, whereas if that was published today, it would have been canceled within the first 5 chapters, because that's what most manga are. Like the ones the anime and the popular manga you see today are 1% of the manga that got big and kept going. And that's not saying like there weren't like there's tons of different manga in the big stuff like Shonen Jump and stuff.
Yeah.
But the majority of those get canceled.
Yeah.
Within like a few months.
Here's how Shonen Jump's cancellation system typically works.
It's voting.
It is voting, but every series gets a minimum of 8 chapters before results start coming in.
Yeah.
So every series is guaranteed 8 chapters typically. And then when they get their cancellation notice, that's you got 3 chapters to wrap it up. You got 3 weeks to finish this off. So everybody basically is guaranteed 1 volume's worth of content. You are effectively promised 11 chapters.
Which that's pretty smart on Shonen Jump's thing, because like majority of sales do come from volumes or tankobons. Like in Japan you have people picking up Shonen Jump weekly and stuff, but
but internationally it comes in tankobon.
Yeah, that is smart though.
Yeah, exactly. So like everybody gets a volume basically. 11 chapters minimum, because like I said, 8 chapters is when results start coming in, and if you're canceled after your first 8, you got 3 to wrap it up.
Right.
Usually, unless it's a series they just really want to get rid of, then they might give you 1 chapter to wrap it up. But and like this can happen to literally any title. All right, Bleach got its 3 chapter notice. Anybody can. If Bleach can get a 3 chapter notice, then anybody can.
Yeah.
So like it's a very cutthroat system, and you really got to put in the work to stand out. But and I don't know if this is how the system worked back in the 80s when Saint Seiya was being published. Either that or Saint Seiya was really just as popular as Dragon Ball and JoJo back in the day.
Maybe.
It's because the thing is, Saint Seiya is really fondly remembered, like culturally. It's still getting new adaptations.
But that's the thing, is that for later on when it likely picks up compared to the beginning chapters.
Exactly. And that's why I'm thinking it more than likely improves.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping it improves sooner rather than later, because I have a feeling of dreading reading it.
I'm not.
Because another thing that adds on to it too is it's the most boring title I have on my list, and it's one of the longest, 40 pages a chapter. American comic books don't do that to us.
Yeah.
And they only come out once a month.
Yeah.
So like it's
and with American comics, the plus side with that in terms of continuing or dropping is like usually the first arc in most comics are 4 to 6 issues. If it's not good by the end of that first arc, then you can definitively pretty much drop it. It might get better, but just that's how comics are. Is like, and a lot of people will go by first issue, but that's not entirely fair. But first arc, if it doesn't grab you, then drop it basically.
Yeah. But and the thing is, Saint Seiya also has a case of it really feels like it's not 100% certain what its first arc is. Because it starts with this tournament arc premise.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, don't start a manga series with a tournament arc. Like,
Yeah.
I know the tournament arc was really cemented as a trope by Yu Yu Hakusho, which did it really, really well.
Yeah.
Like, the Dark Tournament arc is still held as the gold standard of tournament arcs. But, like, starting your series with a tournament arc, which, again, nobody knew this was a bad idea yet. Someone, I guess, had to demonstrate it. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Unless the series is about a tournament, like, full stop. Don't do that.
Yeah, just
the
like
best way to introduce your cast.
Yeah, like there's two reasons for not doing it. I haven't even read the series, but just based on if you start it with a tournament arc, the two big things I see is like what you said, like I don't really have much investment in these main characters in their tournament arc. When it's like another manga, another series, whatever it is, like it eventually leads to that tournament arc. Not saying it's like the build up, but maybe that tournament arc happens eventually, and then you're more invested in it because it's like, oh, I've got to know these characters. I'm really rooting for them. This is, I don't know these characters. You're not giving me much to care about them. It's just them fighting. And that's also another thing. The fighting could be amazing. I'm not saying it is in this manga, but I'm saying fighting could be amazing in that tournament arc. But then once that arc is over, one, I don't really care about the characters, but let's say the fighting was great. That arc is now over.
Yeah.
I felt a high with that fighting. Now you're going to have like a dead period. What I mean is not as much action because you can't just keep doing action. After a tournament arc, there's a breather period or a dead period.
Yeah.
If I haven't gotten to know these characters, do you expect me to entirely care during this dead period? Like,
and the thing is, Saint Seiya is trying to put in that work because okay, so it started with 2 chapters to establish Seiya and his motivations and like how he trained for his power and all that. And then like chapter 3 is where it starts throwing you into the tournament arc, and it introduces the other Knights of the Zodiac who are participating. So like you go in, you know, knowing basically who Seiya is and what he wants.
right.
So like you got that basic investment of like, okay, he's the main character. We know who he is, what he wants. We know why he's fighting. And it gives flashbacks of the other characters participating as fights are happening. So it's interrupting action to give you backstory. And it's basically introducing the characters, throwing them into a fight, and then telling you why you should care about the fight after it's already started.
Right.
By putting you into a flashback, showing a little piece of like that character's training and their motivations for doing what they're doing after the fight has technically already started. So that's not the best structure. This, if you wanted me to care about the entire cast of participants in this tournament, what you should have done was written chapters about each of these characters like sequentially and told the story a little more chronologically and then gone into the tournament arc.
Yeah.
You probably would have had more page space for better action if you did that.
Yeah.
Because like I feel like a huge part of the reason the fights themselves are boring is because there isn't enough page space to get backstory and action in the same chapter.
Yeah.
So like the characters' backstories suffer because they're inconveniently placed, and it's a low period interrupting what was about to be a fight. And then the fights are boring because there's not enough space for them, so they have to end in like one punch. I'm hoping it gets better. Like
Maybe
Dragon Ball got me right away. Like Goku and Bulma feel like siblings. You know what I mean? Like they have that little brother and older sister dynamic.
Yeah, I love when Akira Toriyama isn't writing what is essentially Dragon Ball Z. I mean, like, I like Dragon Ball Z, don't get me wrong, but I love like his like whimsical characters and his adventure stuff. I think he's like a master at that type of stuff.
Toriyama is a good comedian and a good character writer, especially for comedy. And but the thing is, he's also a great action choreographer. You know what I mean? Like, his fight choreography is fantastic, and that's a huge part of why the Z portion of Dragon Ball is so good too. But the thing is, once you get to Z, the whimsy and the comedy, like Dragon Ball's original identity, falls away in favor of the action. Whereas the action serviced the comedy in the original Dragon Ball.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Once you get to Z, it's all about the action for its own sake.
Because the most recent thing I read from him was his Sandland book. That
I want to read that at some point. I probably need to get through this rotation first, or at least I need to knock a couple titles out of this one.
Right. And Sandland isn't like amazing, but like, I don't know. I like that type of Toriyama. Like, it feels like comforting, just like just funny, fun adventure type stuff. Like, yes, there's stakes, but oftentimes it's not like insane. Not saying you can't have insane, stressful stakes, but he's just, I don't know. It's like, I'm not trying to say it's like Studio Ghibli, but like how Studio Ghibli is like, you're along for the ride and it's comforting kind of. I get that with like Toriyama and his like comedic adventure stuff.
Yeah. For me, I think Toriyama has pretty well proven at this point that if you just leave him alone and let him do whatever he wants, he's gonna make something really good. But if you mess with it too much and you start telling him like, people are expecting Dragon Ball Z, so make Dragon Ball Z, it's gonna suffer because it's not actually what he wants to do. Like the Buu Saga, the entire Buu Saga was just there to extend Dragon Ball Z artificially because it was too successful to stop. Honestly, Dragon Ball really should have ended after Cell with just like a little epilogue about Gohan as the Great Saiyaman, and then leave it at that. Like, show us Gohan is going to be Earth's protector, and then leave it at that. Like the torch.
I think I'd agree. Yeah, like that would have been a good ending point. Yeah, because the whole Great Saiyaman arc is kind of just like like a little cap off, little epilogue to the Cell arc or Cell Saga.
Like Earth is going to have a protector without Goku, and it's Gohan, who actually dresses up like a superhero. So so like it could have been like that would have been the perfect cap off. Like, I like Dragon Ball. I like Dragon Ball Super. I know a lot of people don't like Super, but for me, it's at this point Dragon Ball is just like, whatever, man. I'm just along for the ride on that. Like, as far as that goes, it's like Dragon Ball stopped being about something a long time ago. You may as well just enjoy the fights because they're still pretty cool. But for now, like, as far as my manga reading goes, I'm really enjoying being an early Dragon Ball. I'm really like an early JoJo. Yu Yu Hakusho, like I said, it's my favorite of the classics, so it's doing a great job. I haven't even gotten to the actual like shonen action parts of Yu Yu Hakusho yet. I'm still in the episodic, like, kind of slice of lifey exploration of death and the afterlife part of it.
Oh yeah.
Like, goodness gracious, does early Yu Yu Hakusho get like really sincere and emotional, and I'm really enjoying it because it's a very optimistic and beautiful exploration of what death is. Like, because it's a sad thing and it's a tragic thing, but it's important and it's a huge part of why life means something to begin with.
Right.
Why life is valued. The reason it's valued is because it's not going to be here forever. Like life has to end. So, and Yu Yu Hakusho really dives into that, and it does it with a lot of different kinds of characters, like an old dog, who his little boy is timid and scared, and the old dog, his body is ready to quit, but he doesn't want to go because he knows that his boy isn't gonna be okay without him.
Yeah.
Or a girl whose ghost lingers in a train station because she promised to meet someone there years ago for Christmas, and she never saw him. Like things like that. It's really, or an old man whose grandson died, years ahead of him. And he's, old and bitter, and he pushes everybody away, and he just needs that last like little bit of warmth, that last little bit of something to remind him of his grandson.
Yeah.
Before he can go, something to show him that like it was important.
Right.
So it's like early Yu Yu Hakusho is fantastic, and it's a great like exploration of death, but not in like a morbid way.
Yeah,
I'm really happy that there is a series that managed to find a way to explore death as a topic without being morbid or depressing about it.
Yeah.
And I know it turns into more of a shonen action series as it goes on, and I'm looking forward to those parts because I know that they're going to be well done because it's Yoshihiro Togashi, and he's probably the greatest manga author who ever lived. But I'm really just kind of taking the time to savor the slower bits in this early part as well for Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah, that makes sense. But
also,
with all that,
Botan, freaking cute anime girl, real cute. Like Togashi knows how to draw cute girls.
What'd you say her name was? Photon?
Botan. Botan.
Okay, yeah.
She is cute as a bug. Oh goodness. I remember texting you and telling you like, yeah, I could probably do like an hour and a half.
Yeah, for those listening, you already know because whenever you clicked on this, like you took the shot, and if you're still listening, thank you. But it's 3 hours and 36 minutes. It has been good, and for those listening, if you still are listening, most episodes won't be this long. The reason this one is so long, we haven't done a recording in a long time, and we haven't talked outside of messages in a few months. So a little bit of a catching up as well as catching up in terms of podcast.
Yeah.
So
scraping off the rust.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been good. It's weird that I'm going to have to do this. But I've been Brandon.
And I've been Teo.
And now we're not.
That does feel weird.
That does feel weird. I'll come up with something else. I feel like I'm trying to take your identity. But yeah, take care, folks.
Bye-bye.